This is right, Arab.
Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Ollie Barrett. Let's take a look at the top stories this hour. The Kremlin says work continues to schedule a video call between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Joe Biden amid tensions over Ukraine. The United States and Australia announced their first locally transmitted cases of the Omicron variant as nations around the world rush to contain the spread of the new strain. A preliminary study by South African scientists suggests the Omicron variant could be 3 times more likely to cause reinfections compared to the Delta or Beta strains. The WHO urges countries to boost healthcare capacity and vaccinate their people to fight a surge in COVID cases, warning that travel curbs may buy time but are not alone the answer. Sri Lanka faces an island-wide power outage due to a breakdown in transmission lines. Steps are now being taken to restore electricity.
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
Alec Baldwin says he doesn't feel guilt for the fatal shooting of a cinematographer on the set of his Western movie Rust, saying he would have killed himself if he believed it was his fault. Cases of the mutated Omicron variant have now been identified by more than 30 countries. Sri Lanka is the latest. In the United States of America, a number of cases, with New York now reporting at least 5 of them. In South Africa, Omicron is set to become the dominant variant. Norway is witnessing a sudden surge of infection. At least 60 people tested positive for COVID after attending a Christmas party with 100 guests in Oslo last week. Out of those, 17 are suspected of having the Omicron variant. US President Joe Biden says America will fight the new variant with science and speed. He's announced a pandemic strategy to confront a potential winter surge, which includes more vaccination centres, booster shots and free at-home COVID tests.
Experts say the COVID-19 cases will continue to rise in the weeks ahead in this winter. So we need to be ready.
Facing a new threat from the Omicron variant, U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday laid out a plan to ramp up the federal response to the health crisis. Biden said he's making it easier for Americans to test for COVID-19 in the comfort of their own homes.
That's why I'm announcing that health insurers must cover the cost of at-home testing, so that if you're one of the 150 million Americans with private health insurance, next month your plan will cover at-home tests. Now, for those not covered by private insurance, we're going to make available free tests at thousands of convenient locations for folks to pick them up and take a test kit home.
With continued emphasis on vaccinations,
go get your booster now.
The president also outlined new requirements for travel.
I'm announcing today that all inbound international travelers must test within 1 day of departure, regardless of their vaccination status or nationality.
The new measures come the same day the U.S. reported its first known case of community transmission of Omicron. Authorities in Minnesota said a fully vaccinated adult male who had recently traveled to New York City and attended a large indoor anime convention had been infected.
This new variant is cause for concern, but not panic.
Much remains unknown about Omicron, which was first detected in southern Africa last month and has since spread to at least 24 countries. South Africa said it was seeing an increase in COVID-19 reinfections in patients contracting Omicron at a level it did not see with other variants.
Well, South Africa is being hit by a fourth wave of COVID-19 and infections are now being driven by the Omicron variant. It's been detected in 7 of the country's 9 provinces. The world is watching what happens with deaths and hospitalizations for a sense of the level of danger now posed by Omicron.
Omicron is causing an increase in COVID-19 reinfections in South Africa, a scientist studying the new strain has said, and is fast overtaking Delta to become the country's dominant variant. Professor Anne van Gotberg, a microbiologist at South Africa's National Institute for Communicable Diseases, was speaking at a World Health Organization press conference on Thursday.
Because previous infection used to protect against Delta, and now with Omicron it doesn't seem to be the case.
However, she said she and her colleagues believe new infections and reinfections with Omicron would feature less severe symptoms. COVID-19 cases are rising dramatically in South Africa, one of the southern African countries that first detected the variant. Speaking at the same event, the WHO's Regional Emergency Director for Africa, Dr. Salam Gay, said the organizer was working closely with countries to step up the response to the new variant.
In South Africa, where WHO has already a team working in genomic sequencing, we are deploying a surge team in Gauteng province to support surveillance and contact tracing.
But Gay also warned that only 7.5% of Africans have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and that 80% haven't had a single shot.
This is dangerously wide gap.
Many countries have imposed travel bans on passengers from southern Africa. African leaders have protested, saying they are being punished for their transparency in reporting data on Omicron. On Thursday, Ghana said it had detected the new strain in 34 samples from travellers who returned to the country between November 21st and 25th, but gave no further details about those who were tested.
US Army General Mark Milley has expressed his fears over the crisis in Ukraine. He says Russian military activity near the border is of major concern and insists Russia's rhetoric appears increasingly harsh. Milley has declined to speculate on what the US might do in the event of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. The US general was asked if Vladimir Putin might have been encouraged by the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. He tried to brush that question off, saying it would be a mistake for any country to draw a broad strategic conclusion based on the US withdrawal from Afghanistan and then take that event and automatically apply it to other situations.
World leader here, a member of NATO, that spoke today, and most of them.
Well, the Kremlin has been talking about the possibility of a second summit between Vladimir Putin and Joe Biden for some weeks, and it's confirmed now it's working on a video call between the leaders. This after foreign ministers of the two countries met in Stockholm. That didn't diffuse the ongoing tensions. The 30-minute-long conversation didn't yield any concrete path forward.
It takes two to tango, and if our Russian friends are prepared to implement their commitments under Minsk, and our Ukrainian friends are as well, we will fully support that, and that is the best way to avert a renewed crisis in Ukraine.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting with his Russian counterpart, Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, in Stockholm on Thursday, and warning him face-to-face of serious consequences in the form of sanctions for Russia's military launches and invasion of its ally. Lavrov here, responding that NATO is drawing closer to Russia's borders and that the nightmare scenario of a military confrontation is returning. It's a diplomatic meeting on neutral ground. Hands are being shaken. The two men refer to each other by their first names. But make no mistake, the Ukraine crisis is still the main flashpoint in the relationship between Russia and the West, at the worst level in the 3 decades since the end of the Cold War. A senior US official told Reuters there were no breakthroughs at the Blinken-Lavrov meeting, although both sides to keep the dialogue going, and it's likely going to be intense. Meanwhile, the crisis in Eastern Europe continues. Reuters visited these separatists backed by Russia in Ukraine the day before the Stockholm meeting. Both sides accuse each other of ceasefire violations. Vladimir here, who did not want to give us his last name, says the gunfire usually starts late in the afternoon. He says he's spent 8 years in these trenches and hasn't seen his family in ages. The Russian government said on Thursday that it's arrested 3 suspected Ukrainian operatives, including one planning a bombing using homemade devices, which Ukraine's government has dismissed as a trumped-up charge. Russian media are reporting that Moscow hopes a meeting between Presidents Biden and Putin can happen soon.
Hollywood actor Alec Baldwin has been opening up about the fatal shooting on his movie set. In an exclusive interview with ABC's George Stephanopoulos, he broke down in tears while describing the incident. On the 21st of October, Alec Baldwin was filming for his upcoming movie called Rust in Santa Fe, New Mexico. During the shoot, the 63-year-old actor fired a prop gun. It killed the film's cinematographer, Helena Hutchins, and injured the director. No charges have been filed and no arrests made yet. An investigation is underway. Alec Baldwin says he doesn't feel guilty over the incident.
Do you feel guilt?
No. I feel that there is. I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me. I mean, I honest to God, if I felt that I was responsible, I might have killed myself if I thought I was responsible. Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them. Never. That was the training that I had. You don't point a gun at me and pull the trigger. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right below her armpit, was what I was told. I don't know. This was a completely incidental shot, an angle that may not have ended up in the film at all. But we kept doing this, so then I said to her, now in this scene, I'm going to cock the gun. And I said, do you want to see that? And she said, yes. So I take the gun and I start to cock the gun. I'm not going to pull the trigger. I said, do you see that? She goes, well, just cheat it down and tilt it down a little bit like that. And I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And she says, and then I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off. I let go of the hammer of the gun and the gun goes off.
At the moment? The decisive
That was the moment the gun went off, yeah. That was the moment the gun went off.
Our sports editor, Digvijay Singh Deo, has been catching up with golf star Bryson DeChambeau in the Bahamas. There are worse jobs to get. He won his maiden major title at the US Open last year and helped the USA to Ryder Cup glory just a couple of months ago. Ever since bulking up during the pandemic break, the American golf star has employed a power game that has forced other players to re-evaluate their own approach to the sport.
There are many sports that value tradition, and rarely do players emerge who has challenged the established order. I have with me Bryson DeChambeau, who has single-handedly changed the way golf is played and perceived. Is that a description which sits well with you?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's cool. For me, the most important piece of the puzzle is doing what I love. So I love executing shots to the best of my ability, and if I can find distinct advantages that allows me to figure out new ways to perform well, then that's great. And if you want to classify me like that, I appreciate that, and it means me well. So I appreciate that.
I did tell you I was watching a lot of your content before preparing for this interview, and your level of engagement with fans really had me impressed. I like the one last week from the top of the roof hitting those balls.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it doesn't come across as forced. It's natural. You like putting your life out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's fun showcasing my life in a new, unique way, because people have a certain perception of me, and I want people to get the real perception. I want people to understand the reality of who I actually am. So that's why I do that. That's why I love entertaining and showcasing my abilities on the world stage all the time.
We are here at the Hero World Challenge. You've played here before, but this one, special to see Tiger back, and really what we last saw of him was in February, but to see him walking around and mixing with everyone.
It was awesome. I was actually throwing a football in the back of the range with him a little bit. Yeah, we were just tossing him back and forth, so it was good to see him, and his competitiveness was still there. He threw one right in my lower area and hit me there, and I was like, God, Tiger, he's like, I told you, you got to be fast. He's always competitive and always messing around with me. I love it.
Tiger's one of the first persons to come out in your corner, and he's always said you're on the cusp of greatness. But despite all that you've achieved, you still put in the hard yards. You had a round of Pro-Am. I just saw you for 2 or 3 hours. You were driving, and then you've come and done this interview with us. I mean, you really put it out there, don't you?
I do. It's a job. It's a really, really amazing job for me. I love every single minute of it, but it is a long, long job. A lot of hours dedicated to it, and still just trying to hone in my craft.
I saw you on that driving it, so I have to ask you this, I also saw you at that long-range world drive. It takes a lot out of you, but there's something in your approach which other golfers are not taking on board. Is that something which is flattering to you? For the like of Rory, McIlroy and all, to say that, we are adopting the Bryson approach.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice that they can see that there's potential there. Down the road, it's going to be mainstream. Speed training is not going to be anything different outside of just practicing your putting out on the PGA Tour. Guys are going to want to figure out how to hit it farther and learn how to hit it farther, and it's going to be fun to see the new generation coming about and getting 7-foot-tall people out here that can swing it at 150 miles an hour with no problem. I mean, that to me is the end goal, and it's going to be awesome to showcase people's athletic abilities. I want to show the true potential of what golf could do.
Yeah, I'm going to wrap this, but I want to ask you this, because there have been some critics of the way you play your golf. Always. Fair enough. Always. But isn't it unfair? Because you're out there, you're hitting the ball as far as you can, because the aim is to get the ball into the hole at least amount of time, and ultimately that's an art. Hitting a 417-yard drive is an art and a skill, and I can see what it takes out of you.
Oh yeah, it is one of the most impressive skills in the game of golf. People think wedging it close is great. I agree with that. I think making it on a 40-footer is great. There's a lot of luck involved, but hitting a purely struck drive into the wind, controlling the ball flight to the utmost potential is some of the best feelings in the world you can get. So it is an amazing art and an amazing skill to have. And it's not all mechanics. It's a lot of feel, a lot of practice.
Just seeing you explain that and that smile it brings on your face, keep entertaining us, Bryson. That's all we want to see. Finally, before I let you go, the course out here, we should be expecting some monster drives?
I hope so. A couple drives. number 3 if the wind is right. Number 15, number 11. It all depends on the wind. Number 6 even. But there's a couple par 4s where I can drive as well, 7 and 14. So look for hopefully some low scores if I get putting well.
Okay. He's told us where he's going to get them. We'll be following him. Thank you for this interview, and thank you for entertaining us all this while. Thank you.
Always appreciate it.
The outgoing Chancellor of Germany has received a grand farewell from the army. The military send-off featured Angela Merkel's favourite music, one of which raised some eyebrows in the audience. The ceremony concluded with a heartfelt goodbye speech from Angela Merkel herself.
The 16 years as Federal Chancellor were eventful and often very challenging years. They have challenged me politically and personally, but at the same time, they have also fulfilled me.
mit Fröhlichkeit im Herzen an die Arbeit machen.
With cheerfulness in my heart, at least that's how I've always thought of it.
In meinem Leben in der DDR,
in my life in GDR, and even more so under the conditions of freedom. It is this cheerfulness of heart that I wish for the future, for all of us and for our country. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart.
Danke Ihnen von Herzen.
And it's a heartfelt goodbye from me. Thanks very much for watching WION Live Broadcast from London. I'm Ollie Barrett. See you next week.
This is right, Arab.